Hello and welcome to Fresh Face One Shots. My name is Joey.
And I'm Jacob.
And today we are back with Death in the Family, Robin Lives, or once again, I suppose, from the DC Vault, Death in the Family, Robin Lives, if you will. This is issue 2. We're here with issue 2 of this mini-series, and my god, this has been so fucking good so far. I've really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Great. We were talking a little bit in messages earlier today. I think it's a great way to open this. I think is talking about like why J.M. DeMatteis is such a great writer for this, because this is a guy that was involved in the industry at the time that Jason Todd was Robin and that the Death in the Family happened,
and was writing wasn't writing the Batman title.
No, but he was writing Batman consistently in JLI.
Yeah.
So he has a good handle on these characters. He knows who they are. He knows the industry at the time. And so while this isn't meant to be an 80s DC comic, it is still doing enough to still feel like it's from that time period.
Very much. I specifically brought up. So there's kind of a fear with going into the character of Jason Todd. Some writers like to make him the angry one.
Mm-hmm. Which, Jason Todd could be an edgy boy sometimes, but not nearly as much as he's been looked back on, I think.
It gets over... There are a couple of moments that mainly get overplayed, and I think people even ignore a lot of his characterization in Death in the Family specifically.
I mean, Death in the Family is arguably comic Jason Robin at his most edgy. So there's that. But even then, there are definitely other moments in that story that kind of betray the way that people look back on Jason Robin these days.
And I think DeMatteis in this is really portraying him as this hurt child.
Yeah. I think especially bouncing off of the end of last issue, I really like where that in particular went. But actually, I wanted to talk a little more about this sort of recreating the style of the time, right down to this cover. Could you imagine this drawn by Jim Aparo or something, like that Joker face behind them? I fucking love that. I think that's so good. Great.
Or I can imagine it being like a Kelly Jones cover.
Could totally be a Jones. Yeah.
From the Nightfall era.
Yeah. Great stuff. Which again is huge props to Rick Leonardi, who's doing a fantastic job with the art in this. Doing enough to be 80s DC-esque while still very much being its own thing. It's really good. Really.
Same with we should also probably call out actually Taylor Esposito, who's doing the letters.
Oh yeah.
There's some very 80s lettering choices.
You would never see this specific kind of lettering today, and obviously we type out all our lettering these days, but I love this font. It's really good.
Even the title page of the issue is designed to feel like an issue of late 80s, early 90s Batman.
Yep. With better credits though, because we credit Bill Finger.
This is true.
I guess getting into the issue, we once again start on our future Joker death, which I find interesting as we actually get into the issue, which leads into the Joker himself saying the Joker is dead. We have the Joker here sort of trying to convince a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum that the Joker is... He's trying to expel the Joker from himself. He's trying to be normal. I was interested in where this was going because, alternate history story, he could totally actually be a different take on the Joker. I do still like where it ended for this.
I didn't buy it for a moment.
Interesting. I could have seen it going both ways, personally.
I think the Joker... I will say, though, I think the Joker's characterization, which we get a lot more of here than we get in the first issue, is very 80s in a good way.
Yeah.
He's dangerous. He's awful. But there's the sort of modern Joker likes to be a force of nature, whereas Joker here is not necessarily the force of nature that he would become. I think he's all the better for it.
Yeah.
And I like the sort of psychiatry parallels throughout. this issue and what's very well probably going to be the story, because
Yeah, I was just
some of
gonna
the premise
say.
of this is Bruce and Jason get therapy.
Yeah. And as such, so does the Joker. I was just gonna say I really like this psychiatrist character, Dr. Stoner, who's a guy that like is totally fooled by the Joker, really believes his story. There's even a panel here of him like crying, over the Joker's story and Joker being like carried away. He totally believes that the Joker wants to be better. Makes him a really cool character. I actually believe that in this guy. Really cool stuff. We then get some Batman interrogations. Love this stuff. We are sort of like through all this reflecting on Jason's attack by the Scarecrow last time. How that sort of like shattered Jason's psyche even more than it was before from his near-death experience, which I'm finding really interesting the way that DeMatteis is sort of looking into that, because
I mean, Bruce is characterized interestingly, especially. A lot of it's going back to the imagery of the sad little boy in the alley.
Yeah. I do also like how... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's... So, okay. The history of the character of Batman is always fascinating, right? Because reading this made me really think how Batman has evolved as a character into being sort of this reflection on tragedy and grief, when, if you read Detective Comics 27... he is not that. He is a dude that fights crime, who dresses up like a bat,
and definitely kills people.
It definitely kills people.
Yeah. But no, it is DeMatteis is doing a great job of like sort of psychoanalyzing him. What I do also really like in sort of like different characters that DeMatteis is throwing into this story, with Scarecrow and now with Copperhead, is I feel like you could have very much written this mini-series and just been like, okay, well, let's do 4 whole issues about the ramifications of Jason surviving the Joker's attack. But no, like, we're taking other swings with the story. Like we're looking how we can like examine these characters through other means, like outside of just the Joker nearly killing Jason, which I really do appreciate. And also really like there's another character that gets included later on here, another Batman villain, and I really love the way that DeMatteis uses, even if for just a small moment. But still really cool.
They're all villains of the era, because DeMatteis clearly loves the era that he came up writing in.
I mean, hey, it's a damn good era.
Yeah, I think the Copperhead thing is also interesting because, again, we're still going to some very heavy places, handling it delicately. Like, Copperhead is trafficking children. That is,
which is also, I think, a real world topic that you would definitely see 80s DC tackle in that way.
Yeah, I don't know how well they necessarily tackle it, because sometimes balls can be dropped.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I do think you might be surprised the more you read from that era.
We need to read more DC from the 80s.
Yeah, I need to get you on some fucking Mike Grell Green Arrow, because that's the good shit right there. Yes, anyway, I really do. Moving on. But we then also get some more, Jason sort of coping with all this. I really do appreciate our sort of narration character, Dr. Dev, seeing more of her here. I just love the way that DeMatteis writes Jason sort of lashing out, and all of this leading up to the moment in what we all sort of knew was coming through the narration, where Bruce does decide to reveal his identity to Dr. Dev. He tells her that he's Batman. He takes off his mask and everything, and it's not a moment of trust necessarily, but a moment of
necessity. DeMatteis does this amazing thing with Jason. Like, Jason can't really work through his trauma at all because he still has to lie. Like, he has to lie. Bruce has pushed him away, and there's something that's going to happen later in this issue that is... it stings in the best way possible. Specifically, I really like that there's this reservation that we aren't going to be making this character of Dev a love interest.
Yeah,
as far
no,
as I'm
this is
concerned.
like Bruce sees that she can legitimately help Jason and knows that probably the only way to or one of the only ways to really make progress here is by letting her into their world. Bruce has this line, he's like, this isn't about you, this is about Jason, and in order for you to help him, you have to know. And
it's very much it's very much let's actually examine the ramifications of letting a child be Robin. Like,
yeah, which is where this issue wonderfully goes next in bringing Dick Grayson once again into the story as Nightwing in the fucking disco suit.
disco
Is
I was so happy seeing this suit. I'm like,
so
yes.
good. Oh, I love it. Yeah, we bring Nightwing into the story. He's fighting a villain named Brutal. Amazing, love it. And Bruce goes to see him, and him and Dick have this conversation, and Bruce asks him this really important question. He asks him, do you think you would have been better off if you'd never met me? If there'd never been a Robin or a Nightwing? And Dick responds to him, the truth, sometimes I hate this. Sometimes I wish I'd had a normal childhood that I never heard of Batman. And that just stings in the best way possible.
It makes so much sense because, okay, first off,
Dick Grayson isn't saying this in a spiteful way. He's not saying that he really wishes he never had a normal childhood. He says sometimes, because most
and he's not allowed to finish. Is the important part? Bruce just
Yeah.
walks away.
Yeah,
Because let's be honest, Bruce and Jason as characters are kind of similar. Like,
yeah,
they're
definitely.
cut from similar cloth. There's a reason Judd Winnick in bringing Jason back really like to parallel them in Under the Red Hood, or Under the Hood is.
Yeah, no, it's Under the Red Hood. Or
You
Under
know?
the Red Hood is. Yeah, sorry, the main story. You're right.
Yeah.
Of the collection. But yeah, no. There's a reason they're paralleled so much like that. Their morals are opposite, but they come from the same place. And I really love that. And so seeing, once again, putting those two characters directly together like this, in a world where Jason never became the Red Hood. Or, I mean, hey, maybe he might still, but certainly not in the same way.
I don't think that's where this is going.
I sincerely doubt it.
I feel like I feel like DeMatteis as a writer is trying to avoid the obvious gimmick, right? Like,
oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, oh yeah, the world will turn out the same way, and like, no, that's not true, obviously. But I do still love what he's doing with this. So Bruce does leave. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's clear that DeMatteis had more forethought than poor Jim Starlin in writing Death in the Family.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're doing this poll. If Jason lives, we're gonna have to change the rest of the story we're writing. Jason dies, we're gonna change the rest of the story we're writing, even though, part
the
of the
story itself wouldn't actually change.
Yeah.
It's the stories after that would have changed. But anyway. So we go back to Joker then, what we think is Joker, who fully fools Dr. Stoner, who is actually Clayface. This is the female Clayface of the 80s, who I love, and is pretending to be Joker as the Joker escapes, which is just a really fun moment. I really like the way DeMatteis uses that character, just for a brief moment. It's nice. Meanwhile, we get this great sort of argument between Jason and Bruce. Bruce doesn't want Jason to be Robin ever again. And you see Jason here, like, actually defending his right to be Robin. He says like, you trained me, you made me into someone I could be proud of. Because back to that point, like, yeah, they Jason and Bruce are sort of cut from the same cloth. They come from the same place, and so taking Robin away from Jason would be like taking Batman away from Bruce. Jason reacts about
and I also very much read it because there's this panel of like being Robin gave me magic from somewhere in like the original Jason run. DeMatteis is kind of reflecting on that, like that it did give this kid a purpose, and being being open and actually being a family, because this is technically, like, let's be honest, Death in the Family is technically what the modern idea of the Bat Family is. Like, that didn't really establish itself until you started, until like the launch of the Tim Drake Robin book in the 90s and the Nightwing book in the 90s.
Yeah. So good. I really love this. We ended this great bit of Bruce saying to Dr. Dev that he needs a friend, which is really nice. And then ending, of course, the actual issue on Joker escaping Arkham Asylum, pretending to be an orderly there, I guess. Or no, sorry, pretending to work for a laundry. Sorry. And I'm assuming, he kills this other guy here. Love it. Love. Once again how Leonardi draws the I meant in a way like how graphic it would get at the time. But again, what's in this great sort of like stylized way. It's really nice. Joker drives away, escapes, and we end on this sort of ominous narration as the issue itself ends. And that's that. My God, I'm loving this miniseries surprisingly more than I thought I would originally. I always knew I would like it, but I just seeing how different the story could be from what I first expected it to be is what I'm really appreciating.
I mean, so much of it helps that, again, we have a writer. Like, we're not just making this a gimmick.
This is...
And I mean, okay, the last two issues could go off the rails and make this a terrible gimmick and, I don't know, introduce Tim Drake somehow.
Yeah. Like, but I mean, well, okay, I guess we need to take into account that, in universe, Tim Drake would definitely still exist.
Yeah, but he would not be.
But if nothing else, even if the last two issues do suck, and I sincerely doubt it, but even if they do, I thought these first two issues were fantastic, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. So, yeah, I think that about does it. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out other Fresh Face one-shots that we do. We cover Superman by Joshua Williamson, Wonder Woman by Tom King, Batman the Brave and the Bold by Various. We're also covering the summer DC event of 2024, Absolute Power, which is going into fall as well, so there's that. We also started covering our first Marvel comic on Fresh Face one-shots, The Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone. The first issue of that was so good. Check all that out. Also, be sure to check out the main podcast, Fresh Face Comics. We're coming up on the end of a Marvel block of episodes. We just put out our episode on World War Hulk with our good friend Mason, and we have an episode on Thor the Accursed coming out with another fun guest, first-time guest on the podcast.
First-time guest, yeah. First-time guest. Yeah. I'm glad we got the schedules to work out for this one. Honestly,
yeah, it's exciting. So. I think that about does it. Otherwise, check out socials. Our link trees will be in the description below. And I think subscribe to Wilderness Studios, etc., etc. You know how it is. I think that about does it. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, this has been Joey Morgan.
And Jacob Licklider.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.